It was total chaos out there, man. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Not only was he a good one last year, he'll be an even better one next year.
Here's the driveway plot.
How the only thing that you need when you buy a piece of land and you're interested in deer hunting, the only thing you need is
It filled in pretty good. Here's a good look at the second planting of corn.
really beautiful bowl down there.
A lot of bean pods. At least 40 or 50 pods per stalk.
You know, that's still a theory. That's not proven. I just keep an open mind. And you can kind of see the field up top on the other side. Really pretty. Yeah, it was logged 5 or 10 years ago, but it'll continue to regenerate. Hey guys, Kapper here, and welcome back. Welcome to another interesting video. Today we're going to talk about pro staffer Phil and his wife and their new Missouri farm, and did they buy a deer desert? First of all, what's a deer desert? Some people consider woods and land that has very few deer a deer desert. Pretty simple, I guess, if you look at it that way. But we're going to get into some detail, and I'm going to show you something really interesting. Proof that they have bigger deer there already. Even though that property is a 165 acre total blank slate for Phil to work his magic.
August 6th, you can see how good the corn looks, how the screen looks. The second crop of buckwheat coming in, it's getting almost knee high. Crazy dog. This will be good. We'll be able to, I think I'm going to overseed this and then disc in the buckwheat. I'm not 100% sure. I might do it the opposite way, but it'll be just fine. I ain't even going to holler at him for knocking it down because we're only about 3 weeks away from terminating this anyway. So,
and I'm going to show you some of Phil's history, some of my history, and we'll talk a little bit about strategy on how the only thing, in my opinion, from my experiences, that you need when you buy a piece of land and you're interested in deer hunting, the only thing you need is a few hoof prints on the ground. All you need to know is that there are deer there now. Doesn't really matter how many if you're patient. Doesn't really matter how big. Obviously, if you could buy into a property that has big deer there, that's just, yeah, huge bonus.
it was total chaos out there, man. It was awesome. There was bucks everywhere. This by no means was the biggest one out there.
You're going to pay more, generally speaking, but you're going to be surprised in this case when you see the shed that they found, at least half of it, and it was on their farm, like clearly on their farm, not even near a neighboring property line. So anyways, enough rambling. Let's get into today's video. I've been doing land management for, I don't know, 15, 16-ish years, maybe more. Actually, a lot more than that. But I got serious, 15-ish years ago. Sharon and I have been buying and selling land because we've always been looking for our dream retirement property. That's kind of what kicked off, this kind of crazy stuff we've been doing, buying and selling land. Anyways, I've been doing it a long time, learned from a lot of people, learned from my own mistakes, and I continue to learn every day. So our farm here in Southern Illinois is a perfect example. When we came in here, it was January when we closed. The deer season was almost over, and it was kind of a wasteland of a property. The owners told us that was a big buck he was after, and I don't doubt that. I mean, because there have been big bucks almost every year that we have seen, but there wasn't that many deer because the farmers around here dispatched the deer whenever they could. As a matter of fact, I remember my first walk on the property, and this was after deer season was over. I found 3 deer carcasses poached. There were fawns and does. It was either 3 or 4 just shot and left laying there. That's kind of farming and land activity that, farmers can actually get permits to shoot unlimited deer. I don't know if they can outside of the season. I doubt those were legal harvests, or kills, I should say. But the point is, this farm that we live on now was kind of a deer desert, maybe not. But the point is, our farm here wasn't really the greatest as far as deer numbers anyways, and big deer. So anyways, I started in on it, and I laid out a whole ground map of future food plots, watering holes, cover. Cover is a lot more important than people consider for having a good deer property. If you have, I'll tell you a quick story about a buddy of mine, Frank from Wisconsin. They own 80 acres, and it's a more populated area, but they own 80 acres of almost all swamp. And soon as gun season rolls around, deer hunting rolls around, he shoots big deer all the time. But all the big deer dive into that 80-acre swamp and stay there for the whole hunting season. And the neighbors have griped to him over the years all the time, like, oh, you're hogging all the deer and blah, blah, blah. Well, he's got the best cover. They don't overhunt it, they don't overpressure it, and that's where they go. So cover, I actually added like 15 to 20 acres of cover on this Illinois farm because it didn't have the greatest cover. And what I mean by cover, I don't mean woods. Woods is kind of a between wide open field and real cover. So when I mean cover, I mean like a cedar thicket, I mean like really dense natural regen overgrowth, or even tree plantings that are super thick, briar patches, native grasses, warm season grasses, if you can get them big and thick enough. They got to be able to hide the deer. So anyways, I added the cover, I added food every year, I did a lot of experimenting, and we didn't shoot does, hardly. We shot a few, we should have shot more. Anyways, now we're just covered up in deer, where I wanted to shoot like 10 or 12 does last fall. We shot a few, but it just didn't work out that way. I hardly hunted again. I was having some, medical stuff going on. Wasn't in the mood to hunt. I was property searching since last September for our future Missouri farm, which ties in, to today's video and our story with Phil's farm. So Phil's farm down here, he had 85 acres. They lived on it. So they lived on, one patch of it, which kind of almost deletes that, although they replicated kind of what we have. And by the time he finished his magic, they were watching deer from their living room on either a corn or a soybean field. He rotated. So actually he had both all the time. But anyways, he went at his farm for 5-6 years or whatever it was, and he really turned that place around. He did a lot of timber harvest. He created clearings in the woods just to create new cover. I mean, that's the cheapest and easiest way to create cover, is to just let nature take over. Yeah, you're gonna get some invasive species, but I'm gonna tell you, the thicker and nastier it is, that's where them deer are gonna hide. I mean, I can remember farms over the years where I've walked through the woods, and wherever there's just a thick bramble, speaking of which, wherever there's a thick bramble, that's where them deer are gonna hide. I never told this story yet. I'll show you some video, but when we're talking about cover, I did arrow probably 180-inch deer the season before last. And I got one long story short, he survived. I'll show you some video clips of this guy. It was just incredible. But the story is, so I shot him and he was bleeding. So I got one long, he was bleeding from the mouth. We figured done deal, but I backed out. I let him sit overnight, and we came like 18 hours later, and we started searching for him. So the blood trail is kind of weak, although there was some bubbles and there was dark, looked like liver. So it could be, the way he was quartering away, it could be liver and lung, but I'm going back to get the arrow since it's slow tracking. But the long and the short of it is, we searched our whole block of woods, we lost the blood trail, and we searched everything except for one patch up by that cabin, up by our cabin build project. I said to Phil, we went in, took a break, got a cup of coffee. I said, there's one spot we didn't look. I said, there's one spot up by that cabin that's just so thick and so nasty. I avoided it, I walked up to the edges of it and I kind of poked in, and I thought I'd smell them, because it was only a patch like 50 feet long or so, give or take. And I didn't smell nothing. I'm like, okay, he's not there. So I avoided it the first time, and I said, you know what, let's go. I'm gonna go through that last patch, that last thicket. Sure enough, and I got proof, you'll see the video here if you haven't. Sure enough, I get into that thicket and I get to like from here to you guys, that camera, and that beast, he was hiding. Because I didn't see his rack. So he was ducked down in there. I got like 8 feet away and he bolted out of there and he almost ran Phil over. Phil got a quick video of him in the woods. So that's when we knew he survived. I mean, the neighbor got him this season. He went downhill from his injuries. But the point of all this is cover. Cover. Gosh, if I could only have one thing on a property, I'd almost have it to be cover. I mean, food is right up there with cover, because part of my plan on this place and Phil's and other people that do this is we suck deer in, you know, for miles and miles around if you have the best and the most food on your property.
I'm gonna wait till it got a little fuller, but we kind of want to get that farm update out to you. And we just been short on rain, and we ain't got rain for another 2 weeks in the forecast. So this is the update of that really big plot that we did. This is from the Hughes blind, and see, it's coming in pretty good. Got some thin spots. We knew that was going to be a problem. There's plants down in them bare spots, but they're dry. There's not a lot of organic matter yet, so it's not holding moisture real good yet. It's going to take a couple of years to get there.
But cover is a real close second. It's a real close second. But if you can have them both, and then you add water into the mix, well, now you're really making something. So his new farm, 165 acres, it's a blank slate. I mean, it's a total blank slate. He's got ridges and nice valleys and timber, so he's got a terrain mix. He's already got a pre-existing, I don't know, 50 acres of field, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I don't know the breakdown. It's all in hay right now, which where we're going in Missouri, that's pretty much all there is. There's not much for cash crops. So anyways, he's got a blank slate, and he's gonna go to work. He's gonna strategically put, you know, his food plots in. He does corn, he does beans, he does greens in the fall. And he's going to look at creating new travel routes and possibly some barricades and some clear cuts in the woods for the cover to come in. So the bonus shed that he found already is bigger than anything he's put on his wall. I'll show you a quick clip of him comparing it to the deer on his wall. That antler shed he found is bigger than anything he's ever got here in Southern Illinois. Okay, this was just from a couple weeks ago when we visited his new farm in Missouri. They found this half of an antler shed, and these deer on the wall are his deer from Southern Illinois. See that? Yeah, you guys definitely got to find the other half.
Can't even get it in between because it hits the ceiling. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
He not only was he a good one last year, he'll be an even better one next year, hopefully.
Yep.
That's a big one.
Nice. So if he bought a deer desert, it doesn't matter. As long as there's hoof prints on the ground, you're gonna see as the years go by here, and fingers crossed, both of us have success over there and we get this property purchased. We're almost at the end, but we're not there yet. So anyways, he will go in, he's gonna add plenty of food. He's gonna add different kinds of food. He'll probably add water. I know at his farm, he preferred to use, we put in some watering like 300 gallon tubs instead of watering ponds. There's different theories. You know, they say the midges are caused, you know, the EHD is caused from midges, from mud, from watering ponds. But the reason I'm not 100% sold on that is because I listened to a good podcast a couple years back in upstate New York. They had a huge, massive EHD outbreak, but they had the record rain. They had record rain, so the mud wasn't there. The ponds weren't drying up. Everything was saturated, and in this podcast, they asked some biologists, how do you explain that? And they couldn't. So, you know, that's still a theory. That's not proven. I just keep an open mind. I've had watering holes ever since I learned how to dig them. You know, I learned from a deer hunter who taught me that, how valuable they are. And we've never had an EHD outbreak. And each property I've added, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10 different watering ponds. And to date, we've never had an EHD outbreak, when we did right here near us, a few miles away, but not here. So anyways, that's my reasoning. And Phil prefers tubs, which I may try a few on our next farm instead of watering ponds, but we'll see. So he's gonna go in there and he's gonna lay it all out with a map, and lay out his strategy, his ingress, his egress, plant food. He'll undoubtedly have the best food.
All right, so we're getting the blinds ready, trimming them up, killing the wasp in them, knocking them all out. Seems like all but, was it one? One.
They were fried.
So 4 out of 5 had wasp in them, and the 5th one, they'd all died from the heat exposure. So
The most food around, and he will draw deer from miles and miles in every single direction. So stay tuned. If he bought a deer desert, it's no big deal. If I bought a deer desert on our next Missouri farm, it's no big deal. If you're willing to lay off the trigger, put in some financial and sweat equity investment, you can make any property a good property. Among every property we've had that I have developed, I always had line hunters. No matter how big the property was next to me, we always had line hunters. Whatever, I get the concept. They think we got more deer, which we do, but they didn't want to invest in their property to make them as good as they can, so they tried to ride on our coattails. But that's where having a big enough chunk of land comes into play. And then, you don't put your stuff too close to any of your borders. So you can mitigate that kind of stuff, especially when your neighbors also have big chunks of land. So that really helps a lot. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with that place. I'm hopefully gonna get moved over there if things work out, maybe help him a little. Maybe we can make some videos on his property, so we'll see. Anyways, don't be afraid of a deer desert, especially if you save money on buying it, where you can use that money to reinvest into the property to make it a better property and eliminate the deer desert status. So thanks for joining us. I hope to see you on a future video. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
let's see if I can get it good. A lot of bean pods. So let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's probably 40 pods per, at least 40 or 50 pods per stalk of beans. I planted about 80,000 per acre on 2.5 acres. So a lot of beans, So let's see. This isn't our best looking corn, but we're gonna take a look. Those are pretty small ears. That's more indicative of what we've had before. So we'll take a look here, and then we'll go take a look at another spot and see what we come up with. But this is still green though. This hasn't turned entirely. So it's still got a little time, maybe this rain we got. Those ears are kind of small. But it's pretty dry here on the hillside and right next to this corner, this tree corner. So Riddick trying to get himself into some trouble today. So yeah, so that's, I don't even have to open that one to get a good look at what it is. That's a half ear right there. But I know I got a lot bigger ears than that around here. Let's go check another spot.